this party started. Bonjour, Ala Hassan. So today we're going to talk about CSDM diagrams. I'm your host today. My name is Brita Koch. I'm a 15-year veteran with ServiceNow, having served in multiple different roles, including being an engagement manager in the field for about 10 years. And now I work 100% on the community. And I will let my partner in crime, John, introduce himself here next.
This is John Zhang. I worked ServiceNow over 13 years, and during past 5 years, I mainly focus on CMDB, and in the past 2 years, mainly focus on CSDM. That's why you can see a lot of my CSDM blogs. That's all published, during my CSDM project, and I hope you can enjoy additional advanced SDM and the approach I would like to present today.
All right, thank you, John. And then we have our prerequisite forward-looking statement slides to just make sure that you understand that if there's any discussion about future capabilities or in the platforms, these are not solid guarantees that those will be in the platform in any time frame or at all. And then let's move on to our agenda here. So John's going to start out with explaining what is the relationship with the CSDM with other parts of the platform. Then we'll do a brief introduction to patterns, and then he'll go into some different use cases approaches. We'll have a summary slide. We'll have some time for questions, and then we'll provide you with some other resources and some links to the other upcoming webinars in our Ask the Expert series this month. So without further ado, I will turn it over to John because he's the one you came to hear, and he's going to talk about these relationships here.
Yeah, I did put, this is the slides I put in my blogs, and you can see basically CSDM, why we need CSDM. You may ask question yourself when you start working on other project, anything service portfolio, the portfolio relate, either application portfolio, service portfolio, digital portfolio, maybe technology portfolio, but how they relate to each other to CSDM. And this is diagram to show you, look at the table I listed here, for example, APM. You have all this table, business capability, business applications, application servers, business servers, all this table is part of CSDM table as well. And also you look at service portfolio, and you can see all the table, it's come to service level. You can see, business services, technical service, service offering, application service, it's all part of CSDM. And but come to digital, you can all is come to they start to manage them into the one single location. And also from business perspective, you added a KPI how you manage your service. And in addition, SPM, you add a commitment like a SLA, OLA, and the support services from business perspective. And in that case, you can see CSDM is like a framework foundation, fundamental, and for all these portfolios. And if you don't start CSDM, you work on different application, and you may have some challenges, right? And for example, standardization, all kind of issues may impact you as well. And that's why some people, I've been asked by many questions, how we should do when we come to, CMDB come to mature. CMDB will be start to build IT services consumed by, the business. And should we start CSDM first? I say yes. And basically, CSDM is like I just mentioned, framework foundation, is visibility to overall platform. Also, it's close connect all the portfolio. You can see here, right? That's why when you start to build, you gotta make sure standardization across platform, and based on out the box as possible. And that's why this relationship is very important. You can look at, and before you start any project, until portfolio level. Yeah, not even portfolio, even CMDB as well, because when you work on CMDB, you have different approach. You always remember, and one is horizontal, and everyone work on that one. But when you come to services and come to service level, that'll be different. It's top down. We get detail in that place. Next slide, please.
So before we get into the diagrams and everything, we wanted to take a little poll here to see where you all stand with your knowledge of CSDM diagrams. If you want to go ahead and throw in some answers there. Look, we've got a few people that have successfully built diagrams. That's amazing. Great to hear that. A lot of people in the middle range there, they understand the concept. Some have tried to build a diagram and some are not familiar with this at all. So I'll let that poll run a little bit longer, but it looks like most folks on the call, the majority, 42%, understand the concept. And only a few have actually built a diagram or tried to. But it's encouraging to see that people have been getting out there and trying. And wow, almost everybody answered the poll. So awesome sauce. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll then. Thank you for that. So that helps John understand a little bit more about, who's here in the audience as he goes through this presentation. And I'll let him go into the CSDM diagram.
Yeah, let's start to jump into CSDM diagram pattern. And before go to pattern, I may talk about how CSDM architecture be built and what's the purpose, what's the benefit. Let's go next slide, please. Basically, I'm talking about microservices architecture approach. I think we may miss one slide. Yeah, I can explain. Yeah, basically, CSDM. Before CSDM, I want to talk about one called IT for IT reference architect. Is one standard framework and developed by Open Group, and basically they share the services for IT use different structure approach, and that include lifecycle coverage, standard based, service centric, and that one is basically standardized across the industry and leverage with CSDM. CSDM leverages that architecture approach. In addition, use microservices architecture approach. And what that means, basically, you can see from this diagram. And you have different type of application, client applications, it be SaaS, web, and mobile client server. Then go through, and the CSDM, there will be through API gateway. They build a service, each service in microservice, one independent against another's, and that is we come to conclusion, maybe have standard alone, have decomposed, is a decoupling. Next slide, please. This microservice, this microservices basically provide is, we always focus on modularity, is independent small module, and that will be increased scalability and flexibility when you start to build CSDM models. Next slide, please. Yeah, the one why we use microservices, because we understand if you looks like everyone has knowledge about CSDM because it's layer based. We have foundation, application, business, technical line with a microservices approach, and that includes 5 domains as well. And this is good microservice will enable you to decouple. For example, when you do service mapping, we finish SDM part, right? We call logic CI. And after you finish that one, you have entry point in the application service level, and you do service mapping, connect to, infrastructure eyes, and, use discovery. That time, you basically, if you build like horizontal one without go through the microservices, will impact other CIs. But here, you basically is like service-centric, right? You build service-centric discovery, all the CI dependency, and any change to CI will not impact others or user dependencies. Uh, Reduce dependencies through these, angularities. Another one is scalable, and you can add many services that you want. And also, when you change, volume CI, CI is growing, for each company. Just like keep when you CMDB get mature, you can start adding different CI to IRE engine to publish in your CMDB, but the process service will be gradually added to your CSDM model. When you add it, doesn't impact any existing service as well. This it's not over dependent burden like incident management. That's really good for performance perspective. Next slide, please. Also, we said is microservices really flexible, extendable, and what that means basically, when you had any additional attribute, these different company have different business process, and on your services, you can have business service, technical services. You can add, any attribute based on your company need, and that would be, you know, you can add additional relationship on your business services. It's so flexible and it's isolated. It's what we call isolated, components. That when you make any change, you don't have any risk to impact entire system. Uh, Also, since we just talked about it's isolated function, services, and that's remained, when you work on service mapping, safety, all the, overall, application dependency is not cascading to others. That's the really, advantage benefit is of the CSDM. Next slide, please. Easy integration. That's why you can see we have SCCM, AWS, Azure, different edge connectors, easy to connect in the microservice levels, and that is the CAP process really reduce complexity and overall SMDB. If you don't do this way, look at if you have a meeting record CI, you can imagine how complex when you start to build overall models. And but this model is not impact, as I mentioned in the first slides. It's not just for of us from CDB perspective, also impact all portfolio, APM, DPM, or level and across platform. That's why this microservice architect approach for CSDM is very important. And you can continue, deliver servers. And this is like, we always say CMDB, CSDM is just not one project. It's ongoing every year, multi-year. As long as you set up a guideline approach in a standardization naming convention, and then you just keep a build based on company. You grow up, 1 year until maybe after 5 years, completely different, but doesn't impact. Not like some company, built just one project later on. You find, we have so many issues. and customization. But here, just, we give you standard cost, continue delivery, and that's really leverage ServiceNow, another application called DevOps alignment. Next slide, please. Basically, in the first few slides, you can see CSDM and the design and from architecture approach really provide evidence, how you build your diagram. And sometimes I still remember when I built a diagram 2 years ago, I was struggling. It just, I know it's a relationship, how the services, how we to build in a different company, it's a different scenario, it's different condition, business process, right? And how we identified entry point, how the dependency, if come, for example, sometimes it comes really complex diagram, like Microsoft 365. I think if you build this one yourself, then you sometimes, just, oh my goodness, so challenges, and it is just put, the service into one diagram is confused. And that's why really understand this decoupling, isolated, and benefit of all design approach will really benefit how you make decision when you create say CSDM diagram. I'm going to present few use cases. The diagram based on type. I think if you go to business application, look at the architect type, you will see different type there. But sometimes it's, you may confuse which type I should use. Here, just try put some use cases, and maybe we can learn each other from here. Yeah, first one, I'm going to show you standalone. I didn't build this one. This is a Mark build from ServiceNow. I just want to use the same use cases. It's pretty good one. This is tax calculations standalone application, and if you look at on the center, copies application tax education, and this is start up. Application can be used. Entry point we start. After this entry point, we always think about this. The business capability is finance, and then this relate to application service in production. Application service, when you look at application service defined, you always consider is, maybe on different environment. But here you can see application tax calculation application in the main is production environment, but you can extend it into multiple environment. Can be dev instance, QA, can be test, but here only list test environment. But you got to remember all this application is related product model. Product model is product developed by the company that can be changed on different version and to upgrade during time the past. So here, basically example, tax calculating 2021 Q4. It's Java-based application. You can see application tax calculation, and when you to here you have dependency with all the infrastructure. But when we build a diagram, sometimes you got to consider what's entry point. Is that when why also entry? What is entry point? Because entry point always between CSDM and CMDB, infrastructure CIs. And usually we build CSDM logic CI first. Then we define entry point as application service always, and then you will put foundation for your phase 2 when you start to service mapping. And from here, we really define application service level in production. And for all under, what we can put the information you need, but actually when you start move this design into service mapping, then will be all helped by discovery. Yeah, that part we go not go detail, and that will be next sessions. But in addition, after you finalize your application production service, then you can have additional application service as well. For example, ordering, you need phone ordering, you need to tax calculation too, right? You order something, order management and service management, or you can ongoing add additional application servers. They all depends on application server calculation. And this is a main layer you got to pay attention. When we come to next pattern, I will talk more about application servers, why important, and from design perspective. Second one, we just mentioned application servers always contained servers that can be business servers, can be and technical servers. But here we list as a technical service offering is American based. Yeah, this one is very important. You remember we had different domain. We have one particular foundational domain that provide all the basic data, support common service data across SDM. But here, one particular is location, and location, business unit users, and will be determine where this service offering to belong to. For example, maybe ESEM, JPAC, that that will become to add addition diagram as well. Based on different location, different country may have different tax calculation as well. That we come to technical service, the API. And but you can see we have relationship between technical service and technical service offering is a reference relationship. And that relationship you can show here is very important. We show here because when you build service mapping into the system, this relationship may not display in your service mapping. That's why this is the blueprint and the foundation for overall development start for CSDM. But you can link to always offering. We can use service catalog to link, let user can consume and your service offering. This can be ongoing, getting bigger, and based on your company need or which domain, for if you go to, they don't list, how any user consume, but from business perspective, but we can add it later. Next slide, please. Another one is the client server uses. Client server pretty close to standalone application as well. We just talked in the first pattern, but a little bit, more information I'd like to present here. Next slide, please. This, SolidWorks application, I think they start, the client-based application is computer design application since 1994. But right now they develop more 3D-based application for computer design, product design. And yeah, this, for example, we always, when you build, say, CSDM, we always start a crown phase. And I think if you read my first, webinar, we have multiple phases, stage-based. And we start always, crown phase start business application. And that is CSDM entry point we see. Until final stage, we can go to mature, go to business capability, but we're not, this one doesn't show, how stage works. But we start this, SolidWorks application, Then you concern by application servers production. You can see we call a prod, and you can have multiple instances here as well. Can be dev, test, Q as well. But in service offering, in the service offering, we have both. From service technical perspective, and we have service offering called administration, SolidWorks administration, and REST technical service called application management service from technical perspective. And in addition, from business perspective, it depends on this application, solid PDM product application. Then you have ServiceNow offering, and for business service we call engineer design services. That's software basically being used. But come to here, you can see service offering. We have a blue arrows here. Is but we still need to put high level information here. But come to service mapping, when you start use ITOM visibility and service mapping plus two, this all fundamental information like Microsoft SQL database and iKite service app, lesson service app, they all will be auto populated. When you configure in discovery, we'll call top-down approach for service mapping. That it already to see our Windows server and have network router, network switch. Then after you populate this one, your design will cover next approach. How we use the dynamic CI group. We know dynamic CI group is a very new feature. It's really good feature. You can dynamic allocate the CMDB group, and that's make this SDM more powerful to leverage to provide a service offering. You can see we use, after your service mapping complete, in addition, then you can build a dynamic group to map the service offering. You can provide that additional information to, for example, your network support team, Windows support team. And that's you can see, you may ask question, why build CSDM? How many steps we may take? You can see it's ongoing. You can start from business application entry point, then you come to, after you finish, all the CS, not all of them, but it's called logic CI. And then you have entry point. They can start service mapping and automatically through discovery. Then you can become mature. Then you start to use dynamic CI, different additions, services. Next slide, please.
Great.
Another pattern I like to talk about is platform host application use cases, and also platform application use cases. This we see a lot, when we use CMDB, CSDM project. You see, a lot from this type, rather than client server, stand alone. And that's why I want to focus on this one. Have the pattern, how you take. For example, this is diagram from ServiceNow. They recommend the pattern. You can see on the left we have architect type, and usually that's on the business application form, and architecture type. We can select platform app and platform host. And then we have different layers: business application server, service offering, and service. Yeah. But from here, you can see we mapped all the platform we defined in ServiceNow is platform host. Then we have reference to ITSM. But in addition, ITSM is a parent for instance and problem change and request management. and knowledge management. And the, the from the you can see the platform host and platform application, how they relate to each other. Then then you can see, then we go to application service level, and same thing, we still have host and app, and but only difference is we have instance, and based on each environment you can define, and each environment maybe have different infrastructures that become to when you do service mapping. Um, but from this pattern, you can see we instance change problem and request. You have individual your own, and go to application service, business application, then go down the service offering and end users. Um, what that means, when you define business application, you got to have all the record. See here right now we have overall like 7 record in the business application and table, but you got similar more than application service, pretty similar record but on each environment in the service offering, that's okay. Then when we go to pattern 2, you will see difference. Okay, good. Let's go to pattern 2. Next slide, please. Yeah, next slide is basically, we have 7 application in pattern 2 record. And then when you say, okay, I don't want to all this application in the business application level, because if you go that approach, you maybe overload your record. And but also you need to understand, if you understand in the APM, is application management for their life cycle. And but if you compared, look from overall strategic approach, you say, oh, yeah, we should not put all business application and into business application level. And if that case, you basically will have a lot of issues. If it come to lessons perspective, access, and I have 2 use cases. One, my client worked on this mid-sized company. They basically, when I joined, they put all this business application in their business application service level. And then they had like $1 million charges. And there's just question why we should pay that so much money. Then another company is, it's like a big company. They got to pay $2 million for the lesson management because the design and approach is not meet the company need. That's why the design 2 is we put more information application service level, because application services, the point connect to services, and also is one connect to infrastructure as well. This design pattern have complete difference. When you either uh, take approach from company perspective. Um, that that's true. That's why I put 2 approach. One is you have all the application and application service level entry point, and then one is you put application service level. I think as overall, let me a design pattern I did go through. You can see overall from a microservice perspective, doesn't matter you go to either design pattern standalone in a client server application, and either go to platform host application level approach, and they still maintained microservice benefit, easy to support. But when you come to real project, and then you may have challenge as well. For example, one client asked me, we have platform host, we have platform app, but sometimes we do is interior application. We had, another option in the architecture type. How can we select which one we should select? And it's only you can select one rather than two. And I really couldn't answer that question during that time in the project. I did consulted my, ServiceNow. Then they realized, yeah, that happened in real world, but we should allow multiple choice in, architecture type level. In that case, for example, most case like platform or host application like ServiceNow, Salesforce, and SAP, Workday, they are end-tier application, but they also is, platform host an application. You can host multiple platform applications and has child-parent relationship. That's a big difference. Next slide, please.
Okay, well, we're going on to a poll next. We want to see how you feel after, this presentation, if you feel like you have learned something, or if we need to potentially provide maybe another session with some additional training. We've already had kind of a question about, is there a template, or are we going to build this from scratch during this webinar? And I think that might be a cool working session maybe we could do, John, where we kind of work on, building one during the session.
Sure.
Yeah, kind of an interactive one. So it feels like most people feel like they need more training after this, which isn't surprising. This is a pretty complex topic, and this is only our second webinar about it. So thank you, everybody, for throwing your answers out there into the poll. And also, after the webinar, you'll receive a survey immediately. And if you want to fill out on there, there's an area where you can suggest additional topics. So if you want to drill into, what is the additional information you're looking for, you can enter that there, and that'll help us as we're planning additional webinars around this topic. So thanks, everybody, for answering the poll, and then John's going to give us a brief summary here before we go into the Q&A.
Yeah, I will give summary as I mentioned earlier. CMDB, maybe is typo here. I think. Yeah. Basically, CMDB. A lot of company build CMDB. Just turn on discovery, define discovery range, whatever you need, based on RE, identification rule from out the box, and a lot of companies populate the CIs, and then just make sure you have all the KPI, correctness, then completeness, all this meet company need. In that case, you can really use instance is a change to work on the CI level. But come to CSDM is you want to, how we bring the IT service function into the business. And in that case, we can really support a business. If business interested, they can pay in this service, right? And as I mentioned, is CSDM really is framework foundation. And also another term called common source data need to be defined during the CSDM. As a lot of people say, oh, how can we define this, common service data? That's a lot of template is we need, either like working session to collect the data, but the data, how we collect data based on which guideline. You cannot just go ahead to build, whatever you want. I don't think ServiceNow has good guideline here. That's why during the project, I think, have guideline, build your, template, then start based on template, build a diagram. I just mentioned, how I understand this, decoupling microservices approach, and you can start to build a diagram, based on different patterns, and say the pattern is completely depends on, business service application architecture type of field, what's option you're going to select, that make difference. And based on the select, then you will create your diagram, based on design pattern present here. I think, basically all real example I show you, but how we get there, if everyone is still interested, maybe next session we can really have foundational, step by step how we build. That may help you, from collect data, put into template. We do have different template provided by ServiceNow. Then how we convert that one into diagram. After you have diagram, I think service portal, in a service mapping, ITOM visibility, you come to service. And that case, you basically can really complete your CSDM, become mature, link it to business capability. Then that's how your management team want. They say, oh yeah, service system, how can you present to me? I can present to the, from budget perspective, financial perspective. That's how business capability come to surface. I think I can stop here for question.
Okay, yep, we definitely have some questions. So David is asking, do you need APM, SPM, and DPM and the data within before you would build and populate the CSDM?
Actually, it's upset. Basically, as mentioned, when you finish your CSDM, you basically already had data there for APM and SPM or DPM. And because all these, and APM, tables and SPM tables is all related, is part of CSDM tables. That's why I said CSDM is foundation. It's common source data. That is common service data is to present all this portfolio, the APM, so SPM and DPM.
Philippe had a question. He said, he's asking, what is the best practice to link product models with the business services in CSDM? We often have customers with IT products that are mostly are as well services, and it is challenging for them to identify how to model them.
Yeah, basically, is product model is related to your application. When CSDM, it is basically how we map from business application into application service. The business service application serving to application that represent product model you had different versions. And if you had different environment, you had different product model as well. But each product had different version. And that one is when you do service mapping, use item with service mapping plus, that case you can define then your product, the product is depends on product model. And they have linkage in the outbox. When you anything update, then we always reflect in your mapping. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and if any of these answers aren't enough for you, just go ahead and put your hand up. The next question we have is how to map all purchased service software as per CSDM, desktop license, and cloud service. Do we need a corresponding business app for each? But it does not make sense to also have an application service.
Oh, yeah. If you talk to, looks like you talk about some asset, right? Like the asset software lessons, and that one is it pretty relate to your product model as well. And you can see basic CSDM. I think in my first presentation, CSDM not just for CMDB. And CSDM is cloud platform, include asset management, include software, software lessons as well. And whatever, because CSDM is for all platform, that's they come to like a life cycle management in between, CMDB and ABI and baseline and asset management. Whatever you change sort of license level will impact to overall and serves like the cycle status in either CSDM level or CMDB level, and they all connect to each other. That's the beauty. ServiceNow try to use CSDM as framework, or they call framework because really impact all ServiceNow application, and it make sure it's standardized, use out-of-box as possible. And I do see some company, this is my client, a lot of customization have happened. And either you start APM first, or you do other, asset without consider CMDB. Either you do CMDB without consider asset management. And they all have some really issues you manage to support. But if you start from CSDM, start to bring on the standardized, common service data crossed, and they will support all your product model and different version and lessons and asset perspective as well.
Okay. The next question is, should I populate the CMDB with supporting infrastructure CIs first before creating the CSDM model for the service?
Actually, no. Basically, as I mentioned, you had two approach. CSDM is in my first video, you can see it's manual populated data. Guys, remember this one. And all the data allow you to, like business application, you define yourself. And that's how, they use microservices, say, okay, I give you flexibility, isolate environment. You can, based on different company, you may have different business process service you can define. But that's why usually you got to define CSDM first. In that CSDM model, this diagram, I mentioned that multiple times, you have called application entry point. Entry point is if you done the project in the application service form, you have the one option. You can select how you populate your infrastructure CI. And that, after you define your entry point, usually we call phase one. That's how, in my past 3 project, CSDM, I always define entry point first, that's first time we complete CSDM diagram approach. Then phase 2, we do service mapping, usually use service mapping. You had different 2 approach. One is use service mapping plus, and use discovery configure property instruct CIs. But another is tag-based. I haven't tried that one, but I heard it's pretty good as well. But you got to CSDM first, then then populate the infrastructure CI relate to that service. That's how approach.
Okay. Next question we have is, what are the best practice recommendations for recording, diagramming application services that have dependencies on other platforms or applications?
Can you repeat again? Sorry.
Yeah, what are the best practice recommendations for recording / diagramming application services that have dependencies on other platforms or applications? And he has an example here, if you want me to read that out too.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the example is a particular service offered by multiple platforms has a dependency on a third-party API. We want to illustrate that the particular service offering may be impacted by an outage on the part of the third party. Should that API have multiple subordinate technical service entries per platform, or is there a good way to reference the same dependency on the same API from a single entry so that we don't need to maintain multiple potentially duplicate entries?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. Basically, AP, this depends how usually is come to serves we defined, and it's how you manage your infrastructure CI is basically most case, your third party application like SolarWinds and like a big Panda, some company uses, and to monitor infrastructure in network. Then we copy the data into same ServiceNow, and through either standard recommendation from ServiceNow like event alert management application now be triggered, configured with SDM. You can auto populate is all this event alert in outage especially. And that case you come to service portfolio management, special digital portfolio management. You can see you have workspace when you manage individual service level. You do see how rate to instance change problem and talk to different outside services, and then it is a tough decision here. I don't think ServiceNow have a very good solution for the API. API basically we said, okay, we use the API to build individual applications as microservices into ServiceNow. If you have outside services, I don't either. I haven't tried you can integration through connector populate in your CSDM level, and that's one options. And one options you may say, okay, since CSDM is manual entries, right? And you can either try say, okay, I just want to define in ServiceNow um, for the dependency rather integrate to other system. I can either define in my system diagram, and as long as I can connect the related infrastructure CI, and is through service mapping can be monitored, and you can do this way too. That case, you can have one place to manage overall all the dependencies. I hope this answers your question.
All right, so I have a couple more questions, but we only have 5 minutes left, so I'm trying to decide which question to pull up
Okay.
that we can get done with. Stig had a question. He said it's not clear where the two technical service offering goes on the slide 19, as I think the recommendation is that a CI should only have one technical service or technical service offering.
Oh, actually, no. It basically you can have multiple service offering, and this is just one example. That's I think I showed it a second tax calculation, and you can service offering for America, this country, and but if you have based on foundation data, you may have international company for EMEA, right? Either JPAC, then location may be different. Then in that case, you can have additional service offering for that application service. It, it's not a one-to-one relationship. Yeah, it can be a one-to-many. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we got to start wrapping up here. There are a couple other questions. And what we'll do is when we post the link to the webinar recording and the deck, we'll also post the answers to the outstanding questions that we still have here. So sorry about not being able to get to all of them. We did have quite a few questions today. And these resources that listed here, these will be links that will be into the PowerPoint that will be posted with the recording. These are some of the links to our first session that we did, as well as some articles or videos by our product owner of the CSDM product, and then also a link to John's blog. We'd like to let you know about some upcoming Ask the Experts webinars this month. Next week on January 14th, I will have Jared Munt and Nick Sessa, who are two security experts. We'll be talking about data protection. And on January 21st, I will have our newest dev advocate, Travis Tolson, and one of our MVPs, Avishek, will be joining us to talk about how to reinvent yourself mid-career and how the community can help you with that. So if you want to scan those QR codes to get the registration links for those events, you can do that. We'd love to see you there. They'll also be posted on the community as well. So we thank you all for coming today. Like I said, there will be a survey coming out immediately after this webinar. So really encourage you to give us your honest feedback there and also suggestions for other aspects of the CSDM product that you would like us to explore in future sessions so that we can address those questions and help you along with your CSDM journey. So thank you everybody for coming today. Really appreciate seeing you all here and look forward to seeing you at another webinar soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year, everybody.